Low back pain like disc bulging, SI issues, and muscle aches and pains can occur almost expectedly if we're sitting all day at our office throughout the day. But there's some specific exercises and tricks and things you can do to help mitigate the chance of getting that low back pain in the first place. Let's check it out now. First, what we want to do is push our bottom back in our chair all the way so that your bottom's at the back of your seat. Next, you want to make sure that your feet are flat on the ground throughout the entirety of the day. And then you want to look at your chair height. You want to ensure that your hips are higher than your knees. If your hips are lower than your knees, that can cause some unnecessary hip tightness throughout the day that we don't necessarily want. So you want to raise your chair up and ensure that your hips are over your knees in height. You can also add a little lumbar roll if you'd like for comfort, if that helps your low back feel a little bit better. But the main thing too is posture variety is what matters. So you want to ensure that you don't act like a robot and stick in the same position all day for 8 hours, because we're not designed to do that. So you can add a little bit of variety, like lowering your chair height down like an inch, up and down every hour on the hour. Also standing up and doing some of the stretches we're about to cover, or doing some mobility exercises just in your chair, like some shoulder rolls or some little micro stretches, just to ensure you're moving a little bit and you're not getting stagnant sitting in one place. Because if we're stagnant in one place, that can put a lot of load on your low back. And our backs aren't necessarily designed to be sitting for 8 hours in one position. Our core muscles get weak, and a lot of our other supporting muscles get weak. And those weak muscles can't protect our discs and our low back. And then our disc and our low back can have some issues because there's so much joint force and gravity pressure on that area. It can cause some of the bulging we don't want. But there's some exercises we can do to help mitigate that. So we want to decrease muscle imbalance while we're sitting. So some of the muscles that get particularly tight while we're sitting is our hip flexor muscles, our low back muscles, and some muscles that get particularly weak while we're sitting is our core muscles and our glute muscles. So we can do some targeted stretches and exercises for each of those areas to help counteract a lot of that tightness and weakness that we'll experience throughout the day sitting in a chair for 8 hours, to help decrease the chance of getting low back pain in the future. So as you can see, I am stretching my hip flexor for this next exercise. This is the first exercise we want to do to get our hips moving, our hips mobilized a little bit from sitting for long periods of time in that flex posture in the chair. So place your knee on a pillow or on a chair, sit up nice and tall. You probably can't see my face right now, but that's okay because we're focusing on the hips, baby. So we're gonna hold this position for about 30 seconds. This is a good little stretch to be able to get some extended or extension posture in your hip, because we need to get out of that flexion posture that we're in all day. Hold this for 30 seconds and then you can relax. You can do 3 of those. You can do that on each side. I like to you can bring your office chair right up against the wall so it doesn't move. And then that way you have a stationary object. And then if you have a little pillow or you have, I don't know, a soft object, you can lay that on the floor. If you're a real tough guy, you don't have to use a pillow at all. You can just put your knee on the ground. And that is a great way to get your hip flexor stretched a little bit. You can also do a low back stretch sitting in your desk at your chair, and our low back muscles get pretty tight. So what we'll do for this is keep your feet flat on the ground, and you're just going to gently lean forward, reaching your hands towards the floor. You might be able to ideally have your hands touch the floor. If not, that's fine too. Just hang out in this position for about 30 seconds. Make sure it's a nice comfortable stretch, no pain, no sharp pains, no aching, numbness, tingling, no bad sensations, just a comfortable stretch. And then what you can do is to slowly relieve the stretch is bring one hand up to your knee and then gently push your hand down towards your knee, and then bring the other hand, gently push on that knee to get yourself sitting up in that gentle position. Because sometimes if we're in this position and we just go directly to sit up, that can cause a little bit of a spasm in our low back. It might not for you, it might for others. So just a gentle way to end the stretch. You could do that stretch 30 seconds 3 times every hour on the hour to get our low back stretched out a little bit. To perform the glute exercise sitting at our desk, we can do it super easy, sitting in our chair at our desk. So it's called a glute set, a glute squeezing set. So basically we're taking your gluteus maximus while we're sitting in the chair and we're squeezing it for about 5 to 10 seconds, 10 seconds ideally, and then we relax. So squeezing your glute max together for about a 75, maybe 80% maximum contract squeeze, and relaxing after 10 seconds. That will help activate those glute muscles that are falling asleep sitting in that chair for long periods of time, and just be able to get some blood flow circulating, get some muscle activation going, all those good things that we don't normally get when we're just sitting all day at our desk. So do 10-second holds 10 times for those. And then we can also do a core muscle strengthening exercise, because when we're sitting in our chair, we're just kind of hanging out. We have the backrest supporting our core. We have the chair supporting us. We have sometimes our armrests are just supporting us. So our core muscles are super on vacation. They can just fall asleep in this position. They don't have to get activated at all. But we could do this exercise to help activate them while we're sitting in our chair. This is an abdominal bracing exercise. And what we'll do for this is kind of focus on your belly button area. And we're just gonna squeeze your abdominals together, but try to draw your belly button in towards your spine. Hold that for about 5 to 10 seconds and then relax. You want to ensure that you're breathing while you're doing the exercises. So if you're holding your breath, you're not doing the exercise correctly, because that's going to cause a lot of high blood pressure and a lot of other things we don't necessarily want. So you just want to squeeze your abdominals together like I'm doing right now. I'm still able to talk, I'm not losing breath, and then relax. That will activate your core muscles just a little bit, get those muscles firing, get some blood flow going. You can do 10-second holds 10 times. You can do that every hour on the hour to get your core muscles activated a little bit. Next, our posterior chain essentially makes up all the muscles in the back of our body. So like our glutes, our back muscles, the back of our leg muscles, and our anterior chain makes up the front muscles here. So like our chest muscles, our abdominal muscles, our hip flexors. And when we're sitting for really long periods of time, for 8 hours, like 5 days a week, for years, that anterior chain, these anterior chain muscles here, can get particularly tight, and they can get rounded, especially if we have like forward posture, rounded posture. These muscles get tight and weak, and we don't use them as much as we should. And these posterior chain muscles, like our glutes, fall asleep because they're not getting activated quite as often as they should be. Our back muscles, our low back, can get tight and weak. So we want to ensure that we're activating our posterior chain as much as we can, because when we're just sitting in our chair or our desk all day, we're always using our anterior chain, these front muscles. We're reaching, we're typing, we're reaching to pick up the phone. We're doing all those activities, we're leaning forward, but we're neglecting the back muscles of our body. They're just chilling, going on vacation, not really showing up to the party. So what we want to do is activate those muscles, and we can do that specific ways right here. The first exercise we can do to activate our posterior chain, and or just to get some extension based activity from all that sitting we're doing all throughout the day, which is a lot of flexion based activity when you're sitting in a chair, is to just do some standing extension. So you can stand up, have your feet about shoulder width apart, place your hands just above your bottom on your back, try to stand in a straight line. And for this, you're just going to do some gentle extensions at your low back being the anchor point, not your hips. Because some people can like thrust their hips forward instead. You don't want to do that. You want to have a nice straight line, just extension through your back. You hold that for a few seconds, and then you can relax, and then extend again, and relax. You can do about 10 of those. You can do 3 sets if you like. You can do those every hour on the hour. You can do them a few times throughout the day. That's really going to help decrease some of that flexion-based activity that we're always in for long periods of time, sitting in our chair. We don't want to be shaped like a chair. The goal for the rest of our lives is to not be shaped like a chair, not to be one of those old people that we see at the store that has their walker or their cane and they're shaped like a chair. You don't want to be shaped like a chair, because that decreases our mobility, and we don't want to spend all day in our chair. So we want to be able to get that extension mobility in our low back, be able to realize some of that posterior chain activation and extension activation that we need to get throughout the day that so many of us don't get. And then next, if you're able, you can lay on the floor, and you're able to do with this exercise a glute bridge. So this is a great posterior chain activation exercise. So I like to kind of like bring my hands in front of my chest or across my arms, just to not get activation of my lats with pushing down with our arms into the ground, which is a little bit of a cheat. So just try to not allow yourself to cheat and get your full glute activation. So rest your head down, bring your feet as close as you can, or not too close, but close enough towards your bottom, and then lift by squeezing your glutes up into this position. And this is a great posterior chain activation exercise to get those glute muscles firing, a little bit of low back, maybe a little bit of proximal hamstring. You can also hold this position. So hold this glute bridge position for about 30 seconds. You can hold it for a minute. It's a great isometric activation. Just make sure you don't have any numbness or tingling or any pain sensations. But holding this is a great glute activation exercise. And then you can relax. So you can do the hold. You can hold it for like 30 seconds or a minute. You can do that a few times. Or you can just do reps in this position. So you can do like reps of 10 and take a break and then do 3 sets. This is something we really need. We're sorely needing that posterior chain, glute max activation. It's a great exercise to do if you're able to at your desk. Like get on the ground, do some exercises. Hopefully your coworkers don't think you're insane, because human movement shouldn't be insane. You should be allowed to be able to do some glute activation. The next exercise is Superman's. I don't know if you've ever seen this exercise. You can lay on the ground. I love this as a posterior chain activation exercise. Laying on the ground on your stomach, bring your arms up into a Y position, and you're just gonna slowly lift your hands up, lift your head up, lift your legs up, and lower back down. You can do about 10 of those. Hold that lift for a few seconds and relax back down. That should be nice and comfortable. You're gonna get that activation in your low back. You'll get a little bit in your glutes. You'll get a little bit in your hamstrings. And that's gonna wake up our posterior chain because it's been asleep all day. It hasn't been getting activated at all. We've just been sitting in a chair, activating our anterior chain. It's getting all the love. We need to give some love to our posterior chain. And one last nugget, I love the functional squat exercise. So for this exercise, you can get down on the ground here, keep your feet about hip width, maybe a little wider than hip width apart. And you can have your feet a little externally rotated, which means pointing out. That'll help you a little bit for balance. But as you progress with your ability to perform this exercise, you would like them pointed forward as much as possible to get that ankle mobility aspect. But for this exercise, it's amazing. You're able to get a low back stretch. As you can see, my low back is getting stretched pretty significantly. I can also get a mid-back mobility and get a little bit of extension here, because when we're sitting at our desk, we have rounded shoulders just like this. We want to try to get out of that position, get into a little bit of a thoracic mid-back extension position. This also helps open up our hips from sitting for long periods, so we're able to get a little bit of hip mobility with this exercise. You're also getting some core activation from sitting in your chair for long periods. You're not activating your core at all. In this position, you're really activating your core. Now, if this is difficult, you can grab onto an object. So you have like a very stable, sturdy couch you can grab onto, or any other stable, sturdy objects you're able to grab onto on a bookshelf here. You can grab onto that to be able to get yourself in that optimal position, just to be able to ensure your heels are staying on the ground and you're able to pick your head up a little bit. And you might feel a little bit of a burn in the front of your ankles. That's your anterior tibialis muscle trying to keep you upright. That's normal. But the ideal thing with this exercise is to not have those muscles firing quite as much, because your mobility, you're able to mobilize your low back, mobilize your hips, and mobilize your core to stabilize you with your center of mass over your feet without firing your anterior tibialis. So this is a great exercise to do. I love doing it every day for about 5 minutes. Really opens up your entire body. And if you really want to dial in your posture while you're sitting at your desk for long periods of time throughout the day, I made an optimal posture checklist for sitting at your desk. You can check that video out right here, and I'll see you over there.